Hello, sales freaks. Aiden here with another session. Today, I want to talk to you about, quite frankly, it's a prospecting secret tactic that many people kind of understand the 40,000 foot view of it, but they don't really understand the grassroots in the trenches strategy and how important this is to prospecting and saving you a lot of time and reducing the amount of prospecting that you actually do. You're not going to want to miss this. Okay, so what is this tactic? What is this secret to prospecting? Well, before I give it to you, I need to kind of tell you the backstory because it really makes it very important, very relevant. Now, I learned this many years ago through Brian Tracy, but really understood it at a fuller extent and more in depth through an author by the name of Perry Marshall. Now, one of the things I used to do is I used to look at prospecting and prospecting accounts as all the same, meaning that I would have a list of prospects, right? And I would have maybe 10 or 15 or 20 prospects in there, and I'd have, whatever it was, right? Car dealerships, gyms, dentist offices, whatever it was. And it took me a long time to realize the importance of specializing using this principle. Now, all those prospects to the novice, to me years ago, all had the same, they were all of the same quality, meaning that if I called on these accounts, I might get, if I put enough in the funnel, some will come out. The problem with that is that, yes, you want to put a bunch in the funnel from sales prospecting, in particular from a B2B standpoint. But where the challenge lies and where it lied for me is I would spend all this time, I'd get all these accounts, 10, 20, 30 accounts, let's just say, and they go into the funnel. And I'm doing everything I need to do to get these accounts into the funnel. I'm calling one, and I'm calling the second one, I'm calling the third one. And some would bite, some wouldn't, and they'd go into the funnel and they'd come out further through the funnel. When they actually came out of the funnel and became a customer, I started to recognize that I had spent all this time and these accounts were minnows, right? They're goldfish. They weren't big, huge whales or sharks. I spent all this time and they were duds. Yeah, they became a customer. Yeah, I would be able to go into my sales manager and say, yeah, I got a new account. The opening order, $400, $500, whatever. Oh, great, new account on the board. All that BS, right? But the problem with that is that I didn't understand what I was doing and I was wasting my time. And I could start to be more precise. So what do I mean? Well, being in the janitorial sector and being in the janitorial distribution specifically, I was looking at everywhere, all the accounts in my territory as the same. Well, I'll call on this one, I'll call on that one. Oh, there's that big one, there's that big one. But what did success look like? What were the characteristics of the successful accounts that actually bought? What was the kind of characteristics of the prospect I was calling on? And it would take me a long time to realize the importance of the Pareto principle. Now, before you sit back and say, oh, hey, I know that, like so many of us do. Some of you do, and some of you don't. And it's important that you really recognize the importance of the Pareto principle, also known as the 80-20 rule. Now, you might know it as, you have 100 accounts, 20% are going to do 80% of sales. That is the Pareto principle, but it goes a lot deeper than that. And that's where you can really learn by Perry Marshall's book, 80-20. But where it really makes a difference is when you start to recognize that all prospects are not the same, right? So we all generally kind of look at our prospects like this, right? Like these guys on the board here, that they all kind of look the same. They're all little blue men, little blue accounts, and we're calling on them. The problem with that is that the reality is that the prospects kind of look like this, right? That you have a bunch of accounts. So out of you call on a certain amount of accounts, right? You're going to have one that's absolutely massive amounts. You're going to have two that do a little bit more. You're going to have 4, 8, and so forth. As you see, so out of these 20 accounts or so, you're going to have one does a lot, and you're going to have all these other ones. But the question is what time are you putting in on all the rest of these here? And why are you putting in that time? If you're putting in that time because your sales manager wants to get new accounts, 2 new accounts a month, 3 new accounts a month, it doesn't work. Okay, I remember working with a sales rep once, and they were asked to get 1 new account a week. Well, he was leading the company in Western Canada with 5 or 6 branches and like 20, 30 reps. He was leading the company with 12 new accounts. And when he went into their database, they had 2,000 accounts. And when he went into their database, 1,600 of them didn't purchase. Another 200 or 300 purchased like under $1,000, and there was like about 200 accounts that purchased over $1,000, $2,000 a year, right? And so so many of their accounts were focused on nothing, right? They went after these accounts. They spent all that time and money getting the accounts, and they're duds. And I suspect that for most of you, it's the same thing. You're calling on accounts to please the sales manager, to say you got new accounts, but it's a waste of your time. So what can you do? Well, the reality, and as you'll learn in Perry Marshall's book, 80-20, is that the prospects you have a different dollar value equated to them. So what does that mean? Well, if you think of it like this, think of your favorite sports team, okay? And Perry Marshall calls it the $2,000 coffee maker, okay? So let's go with that analogy. So I'll use his analogy. So he uses the $2,000 coffee maker at Starbucks, okay? So when you walk into Starbucks, there is a variety of options, right? You can go get a coffee for $1.50, $2. You can step up and get an Americano. You can step up and get a latte. You can step up and get a venti, right? Then you can start getting a muffin. You can start getting a sandwich. And then you look over and there's cups you can get, and there's coffee you can get. And then some locations have coffee makers. Okay. But these coffee makers aren't $20 coffee makers. They're $800, $1,000 coffee makers. Those coffee makers are designed to attract the die-hard coffee person, right? They're not looking for the person that gets Maxwell House at the grocery store, right? And then spends the $30 on a coffee maker, right? They're focused on people that are diehards. And so when you take Starbucks customer, they have a vast majority of customers that come in every day and spend $1.50 on a coffee. And that's great. You want that customer. You're not saying not to get those customers. But what the time invested for that $1.50 customer when there's a customer that's going to buy a $2,000 coffee maker. Now, ideally in sales or marketing, rather, you're trying to take the non-customer to buy a coffee for $1.50, to finally buy a latte, and a sandwich, to finally buy the coffee maker. So you have to have these things available to them to buy. If you don't have it available to them, then they're only just going to buy the coffee. But the point is the 80-20 rule, the Pareto principle says, what does the $2,000 coffee purchaser look like? What do they think? What do they read? What do they, it's best to get to know that $2,000 coffee purchaser and everything he or she thinks and does and wants and desires over the $1.50 coffee purchaser. Yes, we want them. We want all of them. But when you're talking about getting a $1.50 coffee purchaser, that can go to marketing. You can leave that to email, newsletters, webinars, perhaps inside sales, what have you. But when you're talking about selling outside B2B selling, why would you go after the $1.50 coffee purchaser when there are $2,000 coffee purchasers? They're going to purchase a $2,000 coffee machine. It makes no sense, especially in today's day and age. We have to get out of the fact that all customers are the same. All the small customers, all your lead generation customers are marketing. Let marketing have them. Let marketing do them. The big customers you want, that's where sales, your sales superstars need to focus on. They need to have 5, 10, 15 accounts they focus on that are theirs. Not saying sales doesn't prospect, but sales prospects properly and specifically, strategically on certain types of accounts. So let me give you another analogy. You take your favorite sports team. Now, what is a customer worth? Well, it's hard to decipher. But let's say you have your favorite sports team and you're in a town and that town has 1 million people. Okay. Now, yes, let's say it's Vancouver, Canada. Yes, someone in Toronto can like the Vancouver Canucks. Okay? Absolutely. But most of your fans are going to be people in the Vancouver area, right? So it makes logical sense. But there are fans that watch the free game on TV, and that's all they do. And you want to have them. And there's fans that will maybe buy a hat or something or a poster, and it's on their wall in their home or their office, and that's a fan. So that fan is worth $20 amortized over a long period of time. But then you have the fans that buy the ticket, right? And they get every game and they watch every game. They spend $100, $200 for the year and they get all the games. Well, that customer is worth more than the customer that watches the free games. Yes, again, you want that customer too. Absolutely. You want a pool of people. The question is where are you focusing your time? Where are you focusing your time? Marketing can focus on the goldfish. Sales, prospecting focuses on the big fish. And so you take the hockey analogy. Now someone buys the Sunday ticket. Then someone actually buys season tickets. Okay. Now they're spending $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 a seat. Maybe they buy 2 seats. That's $15,000. So that's a far cry different than the person that just buys the NHL pack for $197 for the year. But now you take the customer that buys the season tickets, and now you move up to a customer that takes the box seats. Okay, and then you take the customer that has the box seats with all the best of the best, with the waiters and all the food and all the free drinks. And then you take the customer that actually buys tickets, gets on a plane, and flies to watch the games. So they watch the home games and they're flying to watch the games out of town. There's a huge difference in that customer. And you want to have the things available in your offerings of products that is going to get the $1.50 coffee person or the person that's going to buy the hockey poster. And you want to have the box seats available. You want to have that array. And you want to move your customers through the process. But that's marketing. Sales is, or should be, what does that big fish look like? What does the season ticket holder look like? Well, I'm going to give some assumptions here, but this season ticket holder that's spending $15,000 a year for 2 seats or even more, they have a different income level. They probably live in different neighborhoods than someone that has a $20 poster. They probably have all these different characteristics. So the question is when you're prospecting, What are the characteristics? Where do they hang out? What are the neighborhoods? What are the most likely professions they're in? Right? You start to segment demographic, and you sit back and you say, I'm just going after these types of accounts. So if you're in the janitorial sector, in the distribution business, it makes a lot of sense to spend most of your time focusing on building service contractors who are in the game. They buy products, they go through products on a regular basis. You can get them to become a new customer, and they can start purchasing your products in a matter of days, weeks, and definitely within a month, as opposed to the dentist office that has a whole bunch of product on hand already and is not going to go through it for 2 to 3 months, right? They have different characteristics, or even the school board, or even the university, right? Those are nice accounts to go after. But in most circumstances, they're not going through all of their product every single month, and they're not going to make changes quite as easy. It has to go through purchasing, all of these different, through procurement, all these different channels for you to get that business. So, who are the big fish? What do they look like? And what's the quickest way to get them? And so we start looking at these 30 customers. And these 30 customers don't look the same. The 80-20 rule says exactly this. It says that 6 customers are going to spend $800 with you. It says that 5 customers are going to spend $160 with you. It says that 4 are going to spend $32, 3 are going to spend $6.40, and 8 of them are going to spend $1.60. So does it make sense to give the same time and attention to the $1.60 customers as it does to the $800 customers? The answer is obvious. Of course it doesn't, but we do. And we need to stop doing this. And if we focus our time on the $800 customers, and we let our competitors have those, we let inside salesperson look after, or some type of a system that looks after them on an automated system, email marketing system, something like that. But sales is spending their time going after those type of customers. That's where sales adds value. And so out of $1,000, if those 30 customers together are going to spend $1,000, then 6 of them, okay, 20%, are going to spend $800. And that's the reality. And so I really encourage to read the 80-20 by Perry Marshall. He really breaks it down. But just recognize that 80-20 is with everything, right? There's 100 customers. You got 20 are going to do 80% of the sales. Of those 20, right, 4 are going to do 80% of the sales. And it just keeps on breaking down. And so the question is what do the small percentage that spend the most amount look like? What do they read? Where do they go? That's who you need to focus on. That's who you should focus on. And not saying don't spend time on those, but spend less investment dollars on those, and spend your higher investment dollars on the 6 customers that are going to spend $800 out of the $1,000 pool, because your return on effort, return on investment is going to be a lot bigger, a lot higher, and worth your time and effort. Hope you found this of value. Recognize that salespeople don't need to be prospecting and going into small little dentist office and getting and trying to open those customers. They want to spend their time on getting in the door, working with marketing on key initiatives, strategic accounts, and let marketing automation look after the other prospects in your funnel. That's the difference between sales and marketing. You've been watching Sales Freak come to you every Wednesday, 12 p.m. Pacific time. If you're interested, text me, and we send tips on a weekly basis of insights, tips, and thoughts to help you grow your sales and help you grow your business. I'm Aiden Rigg, and I will see you in the next, come on, episode.